It could soon become harder for some people to move to the United States. A new directive from the Trump administration is drawing sharp criticism. It reportedly allows visa officers to deny applications from foreign nationals with certain chronic health conditions, including diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. The US State Department says the move is meant to ensure that applicants do not become a public charge. In other words, a financial burden on the American healthcare system. According to reports by KFF Health News, a cable sent by the US State Department to embassies and consulates around the world lays out new medical screening guidelines for visa applicants. It says consular officers must now evaluate the overall health of each applicant and consider whether their medical conditions could lead to substantial healthcare costs once they enter the US. The document specifically lists cardiovascular diseases, respiratory illnesses, cancers, diabetes, metabolic and neurological disorders, and even mental health conditions as examples that could trigger concern. Health checks have always been part of the visa process. Things like vaccination records, communicable diseases, and mental fitness. But this new guideline goes a step further for the first time, asking officers to weigh the long-term cost of a person's chronic illness. The cable reportedly said, "You must consider an applicant's health. Certain medical conditions can require hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of care." It also directs visa officers to ask, does the applicant have adequate financial resources to cover the costs of such care over his entire expected lifespan? That means an applicant's financial capacity, their income, savings, or insurance could determine whether they are approved for a US visa. Even more striking, the guidelines extends to family members, asking officers to consider whether dependents like children or elderly parents might need care that could affect the applicant's ability to work. However, a senior attorney for the Catholic Legal Immigration Network, a non-profit legal group, Charles Wheeler, has said that this is troubling as visa officers are not medically trained. Wheeler added that while the guidelines technically apply to all visa categories, they will most likely impact green card or permanent residency applications, where health and self-sufficiency are major criteria. The directive echoes a 2019 Trump-era rule also centered on the public charge concept that made it harder for low-income immigrants to gain permanent status if they were deemed likely to rely on government aid. That policy was later rolled back, but critics say this new cable brings back similar concerns under a different name. Immigration advocates warn that the move could unfairly penalize applicants with chronic conditions and disproportionately affect people from developing countries where diseases like diabetes and hypertension are common. They argue it could also discourage people from seeking necessary medical treatment or from disclosing health information honestly in their applications. For now, the directive is still being reviewed and applied through US embassies, but experts say it marks another step in the administration's efforts to tie immigration policy to personal health and financial status, a move that's raising ethical, medical, and humanitarian concerns worldwide. Advocacy groups are urging the administration to reconsider the move, warning what it could create a new form of medical discrimination within the US immigration system. Immigration experts contend that policy will dramatically reduce illegal immigration for older applicants and those with common chronic illnesses. Effectively, the policy will favor the wealthiest and healthiest applicants.